He can die for all I care. Hello, and welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews, Proust edition. This is book 2, part 4, so page 361 to 480 in my version. So in this section, Marcel is still in Baalbec with his grandma. They hang with Mrs. Villeparisis, I think, a lot, and they meet another princess. I mean, that's just what happens, I guess, when you live in France. In this era, Marcel is stuck with his grandma, even though he adores her, and he lusts after some serving girls and country girls, particularly one he sees along the road. He wishes to chase after her, which is weird. Don't do that, Marcel. Don't do that. They go for lots of drives in the country, and he's enamored by this particular landscape scene, these trees in front of a driveway, which I totally get. It's kind of nice when you see a picturesque kind of place in the country and you're like, I could live there, and then you're like, oh, it's $5 million? Well, we get the first impressions and then the regal opinions of Monsieur de la Saint-Loup and his false intellectualism. He talks, like Marcel talks for quite a while about how people project their own issues on others and how people don't have an objective view about themselves and sometimes don't realize that their tendencies or habits might annoy or ingratiate themselves to others. He talks about kind of, I guess, misconceptions and preconceptions we have of other people. He spent some time ruminating on Monsieur de Charlus, I think that's how you say it. He's a huge homophobe and a rather two-faced snob. I didn't like him. I was glad when he left. He could get hit by a carriage for all I care. He also talks a lot about Bloch and Bloch's father. So that was a super interesting section. As you can tell, in truth, I found this section a little bit tedious, perhaps because a lot of these dudes are rather odious people, and I don't really care to get to know them all that much. Except for Saint-Loup, that guy. He's fine. So there were some good moments in this one. I liked when you discussed how we sometimes don't talk about the stuff we love around others because we're afraid of the reaction. So it's sometimes better if we keep it to ourselves because then we don't run the risk of having someone, taint it with their opinion that differs from ours. I do that a lot with shows and stuff. I won't share a show with even my husband. I'm like, no, you won't like it. Don't watch it. He also mentions a stereoscope, which is the thing you put to your face and it shows two pictures, but both your eyes merged into one picture. Anyway, it was all the rage back then. It's like the smartphone of the time. And he said this one thing that I particularly enjoyed. It was one of my grandmother's principles that, when away from home, one should cease to have any social intercourse, that one should not go to the seaside to meet people. 100%. I totally agree. My husband's the opposite. Anytime we go anywhere, he meets 1,000 people, and we have to talk to every single one of them. He's always just chatting them up at random places. I mean, that's, I guess, what he does to relax. He's an extrovert, and I am quite obviously an introvert. I would prefer to just lie on the beach or lie anywhere and read. That's my idea of a vacation. There's a weird part where Marcel makes some very strange comments about how love arises in people, so they'll produce children constituted in the most normal fashion. That made me go, okay. I don't know what he's talking about. I did like, too, how he talked about if we say something embarrassing or make some kind of social faux pas, we shrug it off, on the outside, but the inside, we're just, dying. He words this very funny in the dark way. He says, "It's not of the slightest importance. I shall make some other arrangement," he said. The other arrangement, which is not of the slightest importance, that he should be driven to adopt, being sometimes suicide. So, anyway, I think Marcel would enjoy, Gen Z millennial humor with its kind of self-deprecating and sometimes morbid tinge to it. That's pretty much it. This section was kind of long and boring. I had some quotes though. No pictures, but quotes. "She went past, and I was left in my isolation like a shipwrecked mariner who has seen a vessel apparently approaching, which has then vanished under the horizon." Yep. "I felt a sort of remorse, or regret, or weariness at not having remained alone and settling down to work at last." I get that one a lot. "A photograph acquires something of the dignity which it ordinarily lacks when it ceases to be a reproduction of reality and shows us things that no longer exist." I mean, I know what he's saying here, but I wonder if he would have the same sentiment today when he sees a bunch of drunken party pictures that people post on Facebook or that kind of thing. I mean, I'm lucky that I only hit the tail end of that when I was posting. I wasn't in my prime when Facebook was around, but Poor teenagers. Anyway, that was it for that chapter. Very short. You're probably happy because I tend to ramble, so I'm not rambling today. Anyway, thank you. Bye.